Hello, and welcome to a video that has probably taken me the longest of all of my videos to make, and it is on a component of a bike. I've got it behind me on this bike, but I'm going to start with the beginning of this journey, which was in Chicago. I got all the stuff in right before I went to Chicago Grit, and so I just brought it up there with me with a bike that I built up. The full build of that first bike is going to follow this little intro, but I got the components and all the guys were kind of stoked to see them because it's a unique group set. Very unique. Not a lot of them out there, and everybody at Chicago Grit was like, what the heck is that? Because it looks different than anything else. And it is different than anything else. And I think that's one of the coolest parts of this group set, which you've already seen some teasers of. I've already raced it a bunch. It is right behind me. It's the Wheeltop EDS group set. We're going to walk through some specifications, but the bottom line of this group set is it goes from 3 to 14 speeds, all programmable in their app, which is awesome. Everything is like unlocked pretty much. I would call this like the jailbroken group set. Like, it just gives you all the things you want. But with all of that freedom comes some responsibility, and that comes with maybe a little modification, a little tweaking past what you might see with Shimano or a SRAM or something like that. And I think it's worth it. You get a lot more looks. It's somewhere in between being a cheaper group set and Campagnolo, which has its own character that people think is really cool. I don't know where it sits quite yet, but this component company is making moves in the industry. They're buying a bunch of companies. I think they just bought Rotor. So yeah, I think they're here to stay. Let's jump into the video.
Something in your photo.
Oh, go for it. Open it. Open it. Oh, yep. That's good to go. That's good to go. Oh, yeah, you're set. Parts. Yep. Derailleurs. Shifters. Both shifters. Good. Done. Welcome to my driveway. This is a bike I raced at Chicago Grit. I've had it for a little bit. I've done plenty of races on it in various different forms. This form, I think, is the most exciting form. Got the Shimano 11-speed, 11 to like 30 tooth cassette, and it shifted excellently. Right when I got to Chicago or West Indy, I changed out the group set. I'll put some video of me changing the group set out in yet another driveway, but I swapped a new group set on here. So I originally had Shimano mechanical 11-speed, and this company Wheeltop, they sent me this electronic shifting group set. So this is Wheeltop EDS TX, and this is a hydraulic brake option. It's a pretty good group set. It is from China, and it's wireless, which is excellent. So there's no wires that go anywhere here. There's also not disconnectable batteries, so you have to charge the battery like you would with Shimano Di2, just like a little magnetic charger, which was super simple. I did have some interesting things building this up. So first of all, this frame, the Amanda frame, it has a really low derailleur mount. So what that meant was it was hard for me to get the derailleur high enough for this 53 tooth chainring, and so I had to actually drill another hole into the front derailleur, which I do not recommend. This will probably work on any bike other than this one, or if you have a band clamp, that'll work even more perfectly. But got that front derailleur on. The first few races I raced it, I actually didn't have a front derailleur on, which actually brings me to another point of this, is you can remap these buttons here to anything you want to. The app is super easy to use, and so you can make these buttons do whatever you want them to do. So I actually had them shift very much so like SRAM, with the right going to a harder gear in the back and the left going to an easier gear in the back. And then I actually played around with their settings throughout Chicago Grit, and yeah, changed what was on here depending on what I had. When I put the front derailleur on, I had it so it would shift the front derailleur. I did have some slight issues with this button here, which on Shimano shifting would typically go to an easier gear, and the bigger paddle on this would go to a harder gear in the back. The easier gear button, every once in a while, it would just kind of like not work for me in a race for maybe a lap or two, which was interesting, and then it'd start doing it again. I am talking to them about that, and they're helping me figure out what exactly is going on with that, whether it's a software thing or just got a faulty switch in there, which is entirely possible regardless of if it was Shimano or Wheeltop. The ergonomics of the hood and everything on here is probably my favorite ergonomics that I've ever experienced on a bike. It feels really nice. You have plenty of room up here, which I usually struggle with, and then in the drops it also flares perfectly, and up top you have like the right amount of leverage. I don't know what it is that they did, but I think it's like the new SRAM stuff where the piston is actually going in this direction instead of up and down, which makes all the brakes feel really good. Like, it's super stiff, and the wall to get to the like contact point is very low, which I like a lot in a brake, instead of like being a little bit of mush until you get to the contact point. But like the brakes a ton, setting everything up was super easy, and if I wanted to, which I do want to, and I will change to 12 speed, I can just change my front chain rings out, my cassette out, and the chain out, and then in the app, it was super easy. The last day I just changed it to 12 speed shifting, which was awesome. The app on this is actually super easy to use, and yeah, everything was excellent. I did actually race this in the rain, and the shifting was perfectly fine. It is waterproof, so that's pretty nice. Thank you, Ken's Bike Shop, for helping me get this bike, and Velocious Sport, my team. You got to see the first iterations of my use of this Wheeltop group set, but the final iteration is on my Windspace, which I feel like is proper, being on, yeah, another Chinese and very well-developed Chinese product. So I moved it over from the Trek onto this bike. It was easy to build, in essence. There were a few things that I struggled with that were standard. I think it actually looks really good. The whole bike is gorgeous in this configuration, but yeah, some main points. Bleeding the brakes, a little interesting. They give you like a weird plunger thing that you have to attach to like some sort of hose. You need an adapter, and it's hard to find. That's a gripe. They did end up fixing this for me. They just sent me a new right shifter. The one that they sent me is strange, as in it's very different from the original one. It's got like a much different click. I think they've just redesigned it, which might be one of the like the biggest things that these companies can do, is just like quickly redesign their product, because their R&D and everything seems on it. Customer service was also fantastic, and everything went pretty well. I like the texturing on the shifter itself. Shifts really well. I've been training with it for weeks now and have not had really any issues. Most of the adjustments are done on the app, so the new way of indexing gears is not like twisting a barrel adjuster, but rather it is just changing numbers in an app, which is different. It's okay. You got to wrap your head around how to do that. I do have road gearing on it. Some adjustments that I would probably recommend making are just going with SRAM gear ratios. So just go with like a 48 2x up front if you're going to do that. Otherwise, yeah, you'll probably need to cut that lower bolt hole. I just cut it with a normal drill set that self taps. that worked just fine. Just a little bit lower, you can figure it out. But if you don't want to figure it out, go with SRAM gear ratios, because then you can have that smaller 48 tooth 2x up front, and you won't have to worry about where this is going. Unless, of course, you have the band clamp style under your seat post, in which case that's not going to be an issue for you at all. Also, you have to adjust on the back the screw on there. SRAM uses wedges behind their front derailleur to help keep their front derailleur a little more stiff. I think Shimano's is just fine. They have their front derailleur the most locked down of all the manufacturers, but yeah, this particular one, it just uses an adjustment screw, which you do have to take the derailleur on and off to adjust, but it's very easy to do to make it like stiffer, I guess, the front derailleur working a little bit better. But after you get all that adjustment set up, the B tension adjustment set up, the rest of the adjustments are in the app pretty much. The shifting is pretty easy to work with. You can adjust each gear's indexing, which you may have to do, although since I've gotten app updates, they have made it much easier to not need to change each gear index. You can, with just like the touch of a button, you can change from an 11 speed to a 12 speed group set, chain and cassette. I just run 11 speed chain rings with my 12 speed Shimano stuff. This is in 12 speed Shimano setup right now. I have the Shimano free hub body, so go with the Shimano 12 speed cassette, and yeah, it works really well with this group set. Of note, sometimes there's little clicks. If you're in the little ring and like in one gear I have an issue, but you can dial all of them in the app. It just takes a little more tinkering than I would say some of the normal group sets, although that is to be said that I've had SRAM group sets lately where like little contacts have come loose and I've had to figure that out with their support team, so this is not unique to this group set in any way. But all in all, for the price, yeah, I can't fault them on really any of this stuff. It is different than both SRAM and Shimano, competitively priced. I think I'll put the pricing and like the weights all up after the build video. If you're interested for that, you can skip to that or just wait around for the little build video. Yeah, it's competitive with the mid-lower range SRAM stuff, which I think is the best comparison for this, because it is a wireless group set and it's super easy to set up. Shimano braking feel, the brakes are really nice actually. They are a little bulky. The calipers themselves have, yeah, some heft to them, but they have since redesigned those calipers for the gravel group set, which I might get my hands on at some point, because it is a cool group set. People, they see it, they want to ride it. It is more unique than any of the other ones, so I think it's awesome. I would recommend checking them out. Thank you to Wheeltop for sending this my way, because it has been a journey and an exciting one to put a bunch of miles on this new group set, which I didn't even imagine I would have anything but SRAM or Shimano on my bikes. Nevertheless, a bike that I raced a bunch in crits and all that. But yeah, I think they've got some promise, and since the purchase of Rotor, maybe even more promise. It's pretty cool. I'm excited to see what this little company has to offer, and yeah, that's my first impressions on the Wheeltop EDS TX group set. But stick around for the build video. There are some silly things. Every time I build something, I run into some sort of goofy stuff, and then I'll have a little video on the weights and like price comparisons to SRAM and Shimano. At the end, there will be a few little clips about that too, if you're interested in all those technical details. So here comes that.
tracks as our skin turned to ash from the heat on our backs, but the water was so cold. Water, water, this town there's a place for anything, for everything, and we found it.
Let's talk about weights of these two different group sets. I have kind of a mismatched SRAM budget build. I would call this like the value build with apex shifters, rival rear derailleur, so you can still have a front derailleur. This one is a red front derailleur, but I will compare the rival weights because I think that's the one you should buy if you're thinking about buying this Wheeltop group set. So first of all, the price. So if you were to go the SRAM route, for instance, probably end up around $1,000. If you shopped around really hard, you could probably get it down to like $700 or $800. Compared to the Wheeltop group set, which on their website MSRP is for around $950. They should be running a promotion right now. They run promotions often, but for right now you can get it, I think, around $800. Check their website, I'll have it linked. That's where you're looking at a few $100 difference in price. When you compare the weights of the group sets, so for the shifters, left and right shifters on SRAM, they're around 250 grams, and then the weight on the Wheeltop are around 230, 240 grams for the shifters, so pretty even in comparison. For the front derailleur, the rival one is around 180 grams, and then the Wheeltop front derailleur is 190 grams. So a little bit heavier on the Wheeltop front derailleur. You get an integrated battery that has more milliamp hours. So the SRAM batteries are 300 milliamp hours, and the Wheeltop front derailleur is 500, and rear derailleur is 800 milliamp hours. So possible better battery life on the Wheeltop group set. Although I have not confirmed this, I haven't had to charge it yet, which is cool. When we compare the rear derailleurs, rival rear derailleur is around 355 grams, and then the Wheeltop rear derailleur is 340 grams, so a little bit lighter there as well. Now this is where I think you can make some upgrades on the Wheeltop, and where you lose the weight battle on the Wheeltop, which is those beefy calipers. So the Wheeltop calipers, I weighed them in at 167 for the front and 179 for the rear caliper and hose combination. These are not cut, so it'd probably lose a few grams, but that's the ballpark you're going to be looking at. And then a cut caliper and hose for the Apex shifter derailleur system. So these are Apex derailleurs. I did have to modify them, or Apex calipers. I did have to modify them to run Shimano rotors, otherwise they will strike. They have this little like nubbin on them that will touch the holding bolts on the rotor for Shimano. So you have to modify Apex calipers to work with that too, which involves a file. Also kind of sketchy. But those ended up weighing at 158 and 126 for rear and front calipers, both cut to the right size. So very competitive with that SRAM budget build compared to the Wheeltop, but the Wheeltop is going to look a lot cooler. You can change what gears you're using, so 11 speed, 12 speed. I think they have a really competitive product. Definitely recommend checking them out if you're looking to upgrade your group set to a wireless group set, something you can put on a lot of different bikes. They have a rim brake cable pull option as well that you can check out if you have an older bike you want to put a wireless shifting group set on and don't want to necessarily change to 12 speed, 9 speed, but you want the ability to change to it in the future. I think they have, a very compelling product. Definitely recommend checking them out. Thank you for watching this video. If you have any questions about the group set, my experience with it, let me know. See ya.